Okay, we're ready. Hello and welcome to my channel, Haylee Marie Vintage. Today I have a super fun sewing project for you guys. I'm so excited about this one. This one's going to be another 1970s project. This one's going to be a coat. I've never done a coat before. I'm a little bit intimidated, but this is Butterick 4486 and it is described as a semi-fitted lined coat in below mid-knee length or jacket. Has attached unlined hood, lapels, one-piece yoke, front princess seaming, full-length two-piece sleeves with tabs and button trims, patch pocket, top stitch trim, and self-tie belt and carriers. Purchased pants and top. Okay, so yes, the pants and the top are not included with this, which we are not shocked, but I am mainly doing the coat, obviously. Well, there is only the coat to do, and I am really excited for this project. I am doing the long length. While the short length's cute, it's just not quite what I want in this case. Let's talk kind of a little bit about the fabric. This is just so stinking cute. I'm so excited. So first of all, we have the lining fabric, which is just this blue Bemberg rayon from Mood. This is just going to be the lining because I want to make sure this is really easy to take on and off and slides well along my body. And this says specifically an unlined hood. I'm actually going to go ahead and line the hood because having this against my hair will keep my style way more protected than the other fabric, which I will real quick show you. All right, let's talk about this fabric. So this is a pretty heavy kind of polyester fabric that I got from that dressmaking factory. I wasn't sure initially what to really make with this because it is so thick, but I think it'll make a perfect like springtime coat. This is not a coat that I'm looking to be super hot. I just want it to be like that warm extra layer for like warm spring days or days where we have a drizzle so I can put the hood up. I'm debating whether I want to try to spray like waterproof on this, and so we'll see if I decide to do that, but it would technically make a more useful coat for me since I am in Seattle. I think it's also really cute, like the idea of this with that like spring coat with this silhouette is just so darling to me. So that is the plan. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty intimidated by this project. I've been putting off doing a coat. The other reason I feel like this is a good practice project for a coat is this fabric was not that expensive, and I have a lot of extra in case I need to recut anything. And then with the rayon, I can always order more if something goes super awry. So I feel like I can make this work, but I am a little scared, not gonna lie. This is some intimidating stuff, but I want to make some coats next winter. And to do that, I need to start like practicing essentially. So this is gonna be my very first practice coat. With that, let's now jump into the cutting. I'm gonna wait for Spooky to calm down a little. When she's this hyped, it's a big challenge. So we will hop into the cutting when Spooky is calm. Here I am cutting out my fabric. First, I am starting with the lining. I decided to do the lining first because it was less pieces, but also I knew it would be really, really slippery and annoying to work with. So I thought I would do it first to get it out of the way so it wouldn't feel as stressful, as opposed to like at the end of the cutting process when I am sick of cutting things out. So yeah, started with the hardest first. It wasn't that bad, but it wasn't fun either. And then from there, I went to cut out my normal pattern pieces. There were no real tricks to this. This was a really heavy fabric. I forgot how much I like cutting firmer fabrics. It's been a while since I've cut one that wasn't a nightmare. So this was really nice to cut. However, I did make the mistake of cutting out a lining only piece in this, so I like wasted a bunch of fabric, which is always a bummer. Spooky was pretty sleepy, so she didn't bother me through this, which was really nice. And then after that, I did cut out my interfacing. This just needed 2 pieces of interfacing and one I didn't end up using. All right, it is now the next day. Actually, 2 days after cutting, I had kind of a weird health and mental health day where I didn't feel so great yesterday. I had some back pain flare-ups, stuff like that, which just totally happens, and I gave my body the time to rest, and then I rested most of this morning. It is now 1 o'clock, and my goal is to work on this project until it gets dark, so we'll see how far along I get. I don't really have any hard plans. I did read through the instructions 5 or 6 times yesterday, so I'm feeling pretty confident about what I'm doing. Juju, you're right in the mic, and I'm sure you're being very purry. I feel good about what I'm doing. I am going to be top stitching on this project. I'm going to top stitch, I think, in bright yellow. I think it would be really cute with kind of the blue lining and bright yellow top stitching. I just think they'll complement each other really well. It's nice to work with a stiff fabric again after working with so many looser fabrics. In the instructions, they don't have me doing the lining until last, so I'm going to follow those and not assemble it at the same time, even though it's very tempting to, but I'm not gonna do it. Not Spooky, we're not doing it. This one I am gonna be assembling according to the instructions and going completely in order just because it's my first ever coat and I don't want to screw anything up. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the sewing for today. Here I am just sewing all the like front and back pieces together the way the instructions say. This was pretty straightforward and easy and was really, really fast. And of course we had our sweet little cat sitting here for it. Nothing really to note here other than it being really straightforward. And then here I am top stitching the seam like the instructions tell me to. It said to top stitch 3/8 away from the original seam, so I am doing that. This was really easy. I forgot what it's like to just work with stiff fabric and how you don't have to like guide it as much. It was really nice and I enjoyed it. Here I am making a mistake because I didn't read the directions correctly and thought I knew better than them. This is about classic for me on a new project, so I am turning over this seam about 1/4 of an inch and then just sewing it down so it's nice and clean on the edge. This is on the inner facing of the jacket. This was a mistake because I didn't realize eventually you sewed the lining to this. For some reason I thought you were sewing the lining to a whole nother seam, which was a no. So I didn't need to do this step and it sabotaged me later, which I will show you. Here I am prepping for some bound buttonholes. I chose to do bound buttonholes with this jacket. With a coat or anything like that, I feel like you use the buttons a lot because you use them to take it on and off throughout the day. So I like my buttonholes to be really, really secure and nice, and bound buttonholes are really great for that because there is no like weird places for buttons to snag or anything like that. So here I'm starting by putting in pins to mark where they go and then marking those with a pencil. And then after that I am just taking some scrap fabric and cutting little squares. I need 7 for the 7 buttonholes, but I do cut more just so I can be selective about which squares I use. This is what is going to back your buttonhole. And then here I am marking exactly how the buttonhole should be sewn. So I am starting with 1 and I believe 1/4 inch long line, and then I do 1/4 inch on each side of that, and then I draw the rectangle around it. This is helpful because the rectangle around it is how you sew, and I got that 1 1/4 inch measurement from the size of the buttons. So that is how I arrived at all of this. It is a little bit of math and this is a lot of work, but I promise it's worth it. After that I am just pinning the line to match with the markings that I made to show where the button goes, so that way everything is aligned and the buttons are spaced properly. And then once those are pinned together, I am just going around that rectangle that I drew on the square of fabric. Nothing really complicated here. I'm just, picking it up and turning it whenever I come to an edge. Once I get all the way around, I will then just do some back stitching to secure it. And then here I am cutting open the buttonholes. So the way I do this is I start with a seam ripper and then I move to my really pointy thread scissors. You want to be pretty precise in this because basically you want to make this almost like a little envelope shape with some triangles on the edge. That way you can like fold everything in really nicely. You can kind of see the markings here. I use my sharp shears to do that, and then you want to get very precisely close to the corner of the stitching to make sure your buttonholes look really nice. And then I am now pulling that little square of fabric through the hole and kind of tugging at the edges to get everything all ready to go. And then the way you get kind of like the lips of the buttonhole, if the buttonhole is like a mouth, these are like the lips of the buttonhole. The way you do that is you fold then the fabric back and you can feel that long flap under it, and then that will form the buttonhole. And then after you do that, you secure it by stitching on the top side along the edges of this, along like the little tiny short edges, and that is how you secure the whole thing. And you're basically done with a bound buttonhole until you put on the facing, in which you kind of do something vaguely similar to the back side where you cut that little envelope shape and then you just tack them down with hand stitches. All right, we are about a weekend later. I just ran out of steam last weekend and didn't feel like sewing, so I didn't. I'm trying to listen to my brain and body and make sure I don't feel burnt out about sewing. However, today I'm feeling really good. My body's feeling really good because of all the rest I've taken. I've slept really well the last week, and I actually meal prepped so I could sew this weekend and hopefully get in the zone and not have to worry about cooking and be able to just like microwave something and eat it. Like for me, that is a big part of like getting in the zone, is like knowing that I have everything aligned and taken care of to take care of my body while I go through some intense sewing. So today I'm hoping to make really, really good progress. Right now, the jacket, I would like to get honestly, I think optimistically I could finish the coat today, One of the things that took so long whenever I last worked on this, I think last weekend, is the fact that I did bound buttonholes, which just take a really long time and is really tedious, and after I usually don't feel like sewing. But with those done, that's like probably what'll take the longest in this coat, and the rest is just figuring stuff out and how it works. So I'm feeling pretty good going into today, and I think I might be able to wrap it today, but we'll see. That might be overly optimistic. I did decide to drop a few details from the jacket. It has like these buttons that like, I don't know how to explain them, but they're decorative essentially, and because this pattern's so busy, I think I'm gonna drop that decorative element. I don't think this coat needs it. We're gonna go ahead now and jump into the sewing. And now we begin work on the hood. This is very exciting. Spooky is very intrigued, so I have to get her to settle down and not watch my sewing as intensely, so I'm trying to get her to look at the little birdies outside. But yeah, today we are starting with the hood. This is pretty basic. There's just 2 hood shaped pieces that you sew down the center, and so first I am doing the outside and then the lining, and then after that I am just stitching the 2 together, and then here I am understitching to make sure the hood lies exactly the way I wanted. However, this didn't really necessarily work the best, so I ended up having to also top stitch around the hood. So then the stitching was like further back, so there wasn't as much slippiness through the hood, so it didn't like have the satin like weirdly bag and pull at the front. I did also do some tacking stitches to keep the lining in like the back of the hood from like poofing up or turning inside out or doing anything weird. And then here I am giving everything a good press to make sure it looks nice and crisp and clean. Clearly not the best angle. However, here I have attached the hood to the jacket already, and now I am just putting on the facing, which will stay in between them. And then here is the last step before I can do my midway try-on, which is me going ahead and stitching up the side seams. So after this, we are ready for our first try-on. Okay, sorry, the lighting in here is not great, but I think it is good enough to show you what's going on here. So here I have my first try on of the jacket. So far so good, looking good in the shoulders, looking like there's going to be enough space in the sleeve holes. Hold up, I have my hood, let me get it. Woo! And this hood could go like over my face, which is obviously not the goal, but it is nice. If you ever lived in a really rainy place, it's nice to have a hood that you can pull pretty over your head, because this gives my hair then a lot of protection from rain. But it's really cute. It like is a nice shape and like nice drape kind of. But yeah, I do really like this hood, and it will give me the protection I want from the rain. And then it's also looking good in the waist. We have a lot of space here, which is obviously what you want in a coat, because it is going over things. The biggest thing I'm not loving at the moment is the hem. I'm probably going to take this up about 5 to 6 inches because it is really long. However, yeah, everything's looking really, really good, and I'm not too worried about anything, so we're going to keep on moving. So I'm going to cut off a bunch of the bottom, and then I am also going to start the pockets. With the basic silhouette done, we are now moving to pockets. I really liked the way this pattern does pockets, and I think I will steal it for future patterns with pockets because I feel like they end up really clean. So basically you're stitching the top of the lining to the top of the pocket, but there's enough space in the pocket for it to go ahead and fold over, and then you still have that same fabric, but you also have a lined pocket. So it eventually ends up like this, but of course you have to flip it around and stitch the right sides together, and that is what I am doing here. And then after that, you go ahead and top stitch around those stitches after you give it a good press, and then you have a separate pocket that is fully lined and ready to go. Like I said, I really like this method and I will be using it in the future. And then here I am sewing the pockets on. In the future, if I made this coat, I might actually make them square pockets, because with a thicker fabric, I'm just not good at getting it to look round and nice. So if they were square, they would actually probably look better. On to the next detail, which is the belt. So here it has you start by folding all of the edges by 3/8 of an inch, and then after you have ironed all of those edges, you fold it in half like a taco, and then you top stitch everything in. This is really nice and worked really well for me. I really liked this method of making a belt versus like having to like make the whole thing inside out and then top stitch it again. However, I don't know how it would work if the fabric was not as thick. Here I am prepping the sleeves. The sleeves are really interesting in this jacket because it was made up of 2 pattern pieces instead of like the usual satin sleeve. So I thought this was really interesting
And I actually really liked working with a sleeve like this. So first you basically like stitch them together and then you top stitch it, and this is how I guess you get like a really sturdy jacket arm thing that doesn't need as much easing. And then of course you still have to put in the gather lines to ease the sleeve into the coat. This time I did actually ease them as opposed to gathering them because I now understand there is a difference. You learn something new every day, and I feel like I should have learned this before I had been sewing for 2 years, but it happens.
Good morning, or more accurately, right before noon. It is 11:11 right now, so I have not gotten as early of a start today as I wanted to. However, I completed enough yesterday that that's totally okay. I have my little cup of tea on my new teacup here. Also, I burned myself with boiling water making my tea, so hopefully that does not indicate how this day is gonna go. But let's talk about what you're actually here for. This jacket. So the coat is basically done except for the lining. So today I'm focused on the lining, and I think I'll wrap this up. And then the last thing I need to do is buttons, buttonholes, and then hemming. Otherwise the main jacket is completely done. Actually, let me go grab some buttons. All right, we're back. I have 3 different types of buttons here. I'm gonna put a graphic over here. Definitely go follow me over on Instagram if you want to vote on buttons. I don't always go with majority wins. A lot of times I do because I am genuinely really conflicted between all the buttons, but I think in this case I am going to use the little daisy buttons because I just think they're really cute, even though they technically got 2nd place. Technically the green buttons won, but I can make my own decisions. The only reluctance I have around these daisy buttons is the fact that they might be harder to button and unbutton my coat with. That proves to be the case. I will switch them out with the green buttons eventually, but we're gonna start them with the daisies. I love this coat already. I really like this blue lining. I'm really happy I went with the blue. I went back and forth between blue and yellow for a while, so I do really like the blue. The lining is a little bit more sheer than I would desire. You can see the flower print behind it. And so I don't know that I would buy this lining again. This is the Bemberg lining from Mood. And while I like it, if it's not opaque, I don't know. A lot of times I'm using lining to make things, not sheer. So I don't know. I would use it in a jacket scenario again, but I don't think I would use it for a dress because I would be worried about it still being just that little bit sheer that makes me have to wear a slip. Oh my gosh, it's still really hot. That's kind of where we're at. I'm feeling pretty optimistic about finishing this today. I might be sewing some in the dark, and I don't record in the dark because it's too hard for lighting in my apartment with where my sewing space is. So I will show you up until it gets dark. I do have friends coming over. I ordered some delicious pastries that just arrived, and so I'll have friends come over and we'll eat them. I mean, obviously that's kind of what you do with pastries. But before I go, let me mention, I usually mention this at the end of the video, but I am trying to get paid a little bit more for my work just because if you break down what I'm making right now, it's probably 5 cents an hour. While this is not the most comfortable thing for me, I do want to say I have started a Ko-Fi, which I will put in the I think, and you can go over there and buy me a coffee if you want. Of course, there's no obligation to do this. I'm just trying to make my YouTube channel and the time I sink into it make it just a little bit more sense for me, considering the fact I have a full-time job and this is something I do on the side for fun. So yeah, you can head over to my Ko-Fi if you feel the desire, but no pressure. And let's go ahead and jump into the sewing.
And now here I am getting so close to the end. I am so proud of myself for persevering through this. This was a really hard project for me to feel motivated to get through because I was just so intimidated and anxious about screwing it up. So here I am just going through the lining really quick. I am doing exactly the same thing that I did before. I absolutely flew through this part of the process because I knew it didn't matter if my lines were as straight, which I know I should always try to achieve straight lines, but I was just really ready to be done with this project. So I was trying to sew the lining as quick as I could. And here you can now see me making this is actually the last step besides sewing on the buttons because you hem everything before this. So I had hemmed the bottom of the regular jacket with a bias tape, and then I had just done a double folded edge for the lining. Here I am sewing the lining to the coat, and then I did screw up. This is where my big I thought I knew better of the pattern comes back to bite me. So I am top stitching this on, which is not how you should do this, and it does not work super well with my machine because obviously I'm trying to pass all this fabric through to top stitch as opposed to just stitch them together like you normally would. I don't know what to call that. I feel like it's taco or hamburger stitching, you know, like pieces of paper folded together, stitched down. I don't know, you would normally do that, but because I had folded it over to make this edge nice, I had to top stitch it, and this took much longer and was much more of a pain in the butt than it needed to be, but you learn something new, and I should know by now that when I think I know better than the pattern, I don't, and I should just follow the pattern directions. And I paid for this mistake at like the very end, so it was kind of a bummer to get to and realized what I had done when I was so close to the end. But I persevered, I got through it, and then all I have left is to sew on the buttons, and then we are ready for the reveal. I'm so excited to show you this coat.
So, you have seen the reveal. Sorry if it's a little short. I always film outside of people's houses, and this one someone came out and talked, and she was really nice and lovely, and we were talking about how no one in Seattle likes color, and that's why her fence is purple and her house is yellow. She didn't want a gray house like everybody else, and I said, this is why I make my own clothes, is so I can have really bright raincoats. But I get like a little, I don't know, I'm just like awkward around people. It's kind of been like an awkward people-filled day because earlier this morning I was in my little bathrobe taking the trash out, and I opened my door to my hallway, and there's like a cleaning crew of like 5 people, and they all like turned around and stared at me, and I was like, hello. So it's just kind of been a day of me being awkward because I'm weird with strangers. But she was really lovely and nice, and enjoy her house. I think she picked the perfect colors with the teal door, the yellow house, and then the purple fence. I don't think you can see all that in the footage, but it was beautiful. Because yeah, she asked why I chose their house, and it made me realize I need to carry around little business cards, because she's like, well, what's your channel called? And I told her, but like, it's not like it's that, I don't know, you can spell Haylee a lot of ways. So I'm gonna make some business cards for my channel for when people ask, and so that way I don't have to like scramble and be weird. Anyway, enough about me being awkward. It happens. Here's the coat. I am like giddy over this coat. I've never owned such a fun coat. I feel like there's like not that many fun coats out there that aren't really expensive or really cheap looking, and this is neither of the two. I love the daisy buttons. We will see how much I continue to love them. They do make it kind of hard to button and unbutton the coat, especially like right now I don't have eczema, but if I'm having an eczema outbreak on my hands, it actually might not be doable with these buttons because they're so rough and I have to force them. And obviously my hands are really sensitive and kind of hard to use when I'm having an eczema like outbreak thing. But otherwise, I adore the buttons and I adore this coat, and I love the lining color I chose. I think it's so pretty. I will say, lining the hood, I'm still happy with my decision because of my hair, but I'll probably need to like carry bobby pins when I wear it and like bobby pin it. It does make it rather slippery, which I still think is like nice for preserving my hair, but probably not great for like keeping me out of the rain. I have decided I'm going to go ahead and do a waterproofing spray on this guy, so that way it will be a little bit more rainproof and I can wear it in the rains of Seattle. The biggest thing that I would say like mistake-wise is the carriers are too long, which I can always redo. It would be pretty easy. I just don't think I will. I thought I was doing them at a good length. I didn't like calculate the fact that the belt would fold and like crumple because it's fairly flexible. The only other thing that I like should have probably honestly redone is, I think it's not this sleeve, I think it's this sleeve. It's like not a perfect eased in sleeve. There's like little pleats and tucks, but I just kind of wanted to like be done with this project. Honestly, this was a really intimidating and challenging project for me, and I kind of just wanted to conquer it. And the other thing is the lining in the sleeve is a little bit too short, like where I hemmed it, and so it doesn't like quite fit correctly, so I'll probably redo the lining in the sleeve and how I hemmed it. I hemmed it before I put in the tacking stitches in the around the arms to like make it so the arm works the way it should. It's what the pattern said to do, and it makes like a ton of sense to me. So yeah, that's kind of like it on mistakes. I mean, I will say like I didn't sew the lining the most beautiful lines that were straight because it's a lining, but I like learned a lot of, well, I don't know that I feel like I learned new skills as opposed to like applied skills that I already had differently. And I'm just really happy. I feel like this coat looks super professional. I don't feel like it looks like someone sewed it themselves, which is sometimes the goal with homemade. I mean, the hem is maybe a little bit not what I want, but that's like just true. Oh, and the pockets, I didn't do a good job rounding the corners. I'm really bad at round seams, but I wanted to show you the lining of the coat. Isn't this beautiful? I forgot the label. My friends got me these really cute Made by Haylee and Spooky labels, and I need to do that. I need to actually sew them in, so I will sew it in after I sign out for this video. But I love this coat. It's super well made. I think I'll get a lot of use out of it. I really like the ease. I like the pockets. I like the fit. I'm sure I'll use this jacket pattern again. I also like that this has a jacket and a coat, so I can do a jacket if I want a jacket. I will say I don't see myself using the jacket just because I kind of prefer longer feminine cuts. But the jacket is nice because it would still cinch at the waist, so it still has some potential to it. But I really like all the top stitching I did, and I did a pretty good job keeping top stitching straight. Not always great about that, and I don't know that I have much else to say about it other than it's great and I love it, and I can't wait to wear it all spring, and I can't wait to waterproof it so I can wear, I'll still wear it in the rain as is. It's just I can only wear it on misty days. I wouldn't be able to wear this in a pouring day, and I would love to be able to wear it on a pouring day. It does kind of remind me actually, so if you're ever looking to buy a coat that's pretty high quality, I have a Miss Candy Floss kink raincoat from them that I really, really do adore. So if you are looking for a high quality coat in a vintage cut, I highly recommend them. I'll link them down below. I'm not sponsored or anything. I only own one thing by them because they're a little bit out of my budget, but I do use that coat a lot. And then this one just kind of the quality of this one reminds me of it. So yeah, if you're looking for something like that, definitely check them out, since I know not everybody wants to sew or has desire to sew. But that is it for this video. There are many ways to support my channel. If you want to buy me a coffee, you can do that over on my link at Ko-Fi, which is also down below. I put a lot of love and labor into this channel. The other thing you can do to support my channel is you can always give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed already, you could subscribe down below and also leave a comment. I would love to hear what you guys think about this raincoat. I will see you next time. Bye!